Up for inspection in this video are the newly released Accurascale KUA Nuclear Flask Carrier wagons in 00 gauge. These come in a twin pack for £159.95 and both wagons come in this magnetic book style packaging. This not only looks great but also holds the model securely in place during transit and handling. Straight out of the box, these wagons make a big impression, due in part to their substantial weight at over 750 grams per wagon. In real life these wagons were around 80 feet long, and these scaled down to 325mm buffer to buffer, making up a 650mm length for the pair. The KUA nuclear carriers were built by Bombardier ProRail of Wakefield in 1998 and designed solely to transport spent nuclear fuel from the reactors of Royal Navy nuclear submarines. These submarines were based mainly at Devonport on the south coast, but were also stationed at Rosyth Naval Base in Fife. There are currently 19 decommissioned nuclear submarines at these sites, most still with their nuclear fuel on board, so these wagons will have plenty of work for years to come. These wagons transported the spent fuel from the submarines and from the yards at Devonport and Rosyth up to Sellafield in the west of England and right up to the tip of Scotland at Dounreay. The wagons were also present from time to time at Eastleigh for maintenance. These typically ran behind a mix of traction in their early days, such as Class 47s in RAS livery with a pair of EWS inspection saloons, and after 2006 they came under the responsibility of DRS when they were paired with a DRS Mark II complete with arm guards for added security. Modellers of the current day scene will need a pair of DRS Class 3760s for double heading this train, which are on the way from Accurascale later this year. If you want to add even more nuclear carrying capability to your layout, you might be interested in the FNA Bogie Wagon or the PFA Flat Wagons, the latter already produced by Accurascale, who've just announced a fresh run of these wagons, so check out the Accurascale website for more details. The model itself is a treat for the eyes. Let me start by looking at the livery. This is flawlessly applied on my examples with an even satin coat of blue on the frame and a light grey on the container. The yellow picks out the lifting eyes and the anchor points, with the axle boxes also picked out in this bright yellow. Handrails are painted white, as are the bogie handbrake wheels and access steps. The white handrails look to be injection moulded and are crisp and remarkably sturdy, with no signs of flash or mould split lines. These frame the walkways, which have a scaled representation of tread pattern on them, just like the prototype. Printed detail is abundant, with even the smallest data panel readable under a magnifying glass. Having studied the prototype, these data panels and warning flashes have been applied in the correct positions. Even the small red detail next to the handbrake wheel has printed detail on it. There is no detail on the smooth surface of the model, but this is true to the prototype. This part also appears to be die cast on the Accurascale model, helping to give the wagon more weight and stability during movement. The central section is finely moulded and painted in a light grey, with detail around the vents and panel lines. We also have a locking bar picked out in silver. The bogies on this wagon have been accurately reproduced. The black and 12mm wheels are 14.4mm back to back, and these can be easily converted over to P4 or EM for modellers of those gauges. As I alluded to earlier, these wagons are weighty. There's a serious amount of die casting in this model, and the weight of this is positioned above the axles to allow a balanced and free-running wagon. The undersides of the wagons are suitably detailed, and there are factory fitted brakes, pipes and lamp irons. The NEM pocket comes with a standard narrow tension lock coupler. However, these can be easily upgraded to a KD or a Hunt magnetic coupler for a closer, more realistic coupling distance. The rectangular buffers are lightly sprung. On my example, one of these buffers was slightly misaligned, but this was a 30-second fix and easily rectified. Sprung buffers seem to divide opinion, with a section of the modelling community seeing them as an unnecessary detail which adds cost to the model. However, I like them. They give added realism and for really minimal extra cost. I personally don't want to see manufacturers go backwards by removing this small but interesting feature. Now I can stand here all day and wax lyrical about how good they look and how well put together they are, but that doesn't mean much if they can't cope with track work. So what I'm going to do in the next few clips, I'm going to put them through a series of tests at different speeds, through different complex sets of point work and diamond crossings and the like. And that'll give you an idea of how they cope with actually operating on the layout. So I've run them through a series of point work there at unrealistic speeds in some cases, and even in the last clip there I reversed it over a set of turnouts to replicate, say, a shunting manoeuvre in a yard, albeit at slightly higher speeds than you would do that in a yard. I had no issues with derailments or coupler locking, so really I've nothing more to report than to say they've coped with everything I've thrown at them. So there you go, the Accurascale KUA Nuclear Flask Carrier Wagon. Accurascale really have done a great job with this. It's superbly designed, it's free running, and the fit and finish just smacks of quality. So what's my verdict? Should you avoid it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go ahead and buy it? Well, it is quite niche and it was limited to certain areas of the network. So on that basis, I would strongly recommend you shortlist it. But if you do want one, I wouldn't hang about long because they're selling like hotcakes. I'd just like to bring you up to speed with one of the scratch builds I'm working on just now, and that's another factory for the Nairn's linoleum complex. This one is similar in construction to the first. It's red brick and it's going to have concrete horizontals and slightly thicker concrete verticals. It's got more windows than the first factory, so it's probably going to be more of an office block. But as you'll notice at the top right there, I've got a circular window. That is as per the prototype, which I'll try and loosely replicate with this build. Before I fit all the concrete parts to it, I've got to weather the brick and then obviously fit all the windows, and I hope to finish this in the next few weeks, so I'll be able to show you in a future update, hopefully along with the completed Nairn 1 building which sits beside it. As you'll know, scratch builds take a long time. This has been on my desk for quite a while now, but there was so many other things filling my time up here in the loft and in other parts of the hobby. It's a case of getting round to finishing it. So hopefully, as I said, this will be finished soon. The coach on the screen is another new addition, and it's a Bachmann Mark IIF Restaurant First Buffet, and that was a coach that was converted over from a first open in the early 1990s to run on the western region along with cross-country services. This one has the intercity Swallow livery, and this ties in nicely with a recent announcement from Bachmann to do a run of these coaches in that livery. So I've bought this in anticipation of possibly buying myself some of the new release. Those of you who remember the initial release of the Bachmann Mark IIF back in late 2018 will remember that they did a blue-grey set from release as well as an intercity with lowercase writing on the side. They also released this intercity Swallow one at the same time, which kind of stuck out from the rest of the the rake. However, this will fit nicely in with the new ones that are released this summer. Well, that's it from Dean Park. Obviously summer now being here, progress will slow up here in the loft as the temperature rises. I'll start to box up some of my stock for the summer and start to gear up for the autumn again with some new projects and new scratch builds. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks for watching. Cheers just now.